Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota.
Hi, this is Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist in Yankton, South Dakota, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. In this episode, I would love to share with you two stories from this past week that help to explain why I love my job. It's been interesting. I've had experiences of people who that range the gamut from people who believe that pastors have the easiest jobs. They only work one day a week. You write one sermon and then, what are you doing the rest of the time, right? Which is a gross underestimation of what pastors do. Certainly part of our job, but it's certainly not to the extent of all the things that we do. On the other end, I also have people who will say, pastors are the hardest job on the planet and all the things. And I don't know that I would say that either. I think there are jobs, in my view, that are much tougher than my job. And partially because of the job satisfaction that I feel, each and every day. So this past week, I had two experiences that really reminded me why I love what I do and why I feel called to do what I do. And don't get me wrong, there are times where I feel very, meetings and doing emails and filling out paperwork and all of that, where it can feel, nobody loves doing that kind of stuff all the time. But this last weekend, we did Vacation Bible School. And I will be honest, it's the first time that I've been so involved in Vacation Bible School. And that has a lot to do with just either having people in the church that really take that on and I kind of let them trust them to do that. And lately I've really focused on being a mom of a student and volunteering and helping out, but not really being part of the planning process. But this year, things were a little bit different in that we partnered together with two other churches, Trinity Lutheran and UCC. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that that's true. And I've already heard that. And that we were tasked with creating the VBS this year rather than finding like a pre-made version, which is what we often do. And I definitely don't knock that option because they create some pretty incredible things doing that. And I'm not sure why that decision was made for us to create our own this year, but it was really fun. And so I would say my experience of VBS reminded me of why I do what I do and why I love what I do. One, it was an incredible opportunity to work with other clergy, and we had so much fun over the summer meeting together, dreaming together, being creative together. We came up with skits and lessons and how do we engage the kids and talking through the story of the woman at the well and what are the things we're going to lift up. And because, in spending the whole summer thinking about that story, I mean, I could come up with an entire sermon series on that story alone. There is so much in it. And we glossed over so much of it for the sake of VBS, honestly. But we still had 3 days of focus coming out of that one story. And so that was really fun. Second, to watch and be involved in the faith development of children is incredible. And there's times where you feel like, I don't know if they have listened to a single word I've said. And then they will come up with just the most profound things. One of my favorite parts of both VBS and the worship service that we did on Sunday is after we told a part of the story, we would invite the kids to share where they found God or God's love in their world. And we did it with things, people, and places. And to listen to them come up with what things remind them of God, what people have shown them God's love, and where they experience God's love. I mean, some of the answers we expected, in my friends and my parents and my grandparents, or, when I'm at church or things like that. But then they would come up and share these like really lovely, specific instances in their life, and it just shows that they're paying attention, like you don't you don't know that they are, but they are. And that what you model matters. Like that's one of the things I walked away with from VBS. What you model as a parent, as a grandparent, as a sibling, as an aunt, as an uncle, as another adult in their life from the church, what you do matters because they're watching. And that is how they come to understand and know their faith. It's not so much about what I say as the pastor, it's not so much what I'm doing, but it's what all of you are doing and the way that you are showing your faith, that they are picking up on it. And it was just really beautiful to see that. And to recognize that like that didn't come from me. Like that's coming from they're seeing that in someone that they care about and someone that they love. Someone is showing them the way. And so uh and also I just want to say a super huge thank you to everyone who came out on Sunday for our worship service and potluck. Um, we had made the decision, as well as UCC, that this would be our worship service for Sunday, which I know is a really big decision to make. And I know that for some, there's a lot of considerations around just safety of mobility. Can I get to the park? Is it safe? And I will tell you that that is a valid concern because Friday night I stepped in a gopher hole, rolled my ankle when I was carrying stuff, and I just face planted into the ground. And Saturday I was actually hurting a little bit, and Tiffany Bestie did the same thing. So um, it is a valid concern about the uneven ground in any park. I'm gonna just put that out there. But I was so grateful and so impressed. We had about 150 people attend worship that day, not just from our church, from all three of our churches. But one of the things that I felt really proud about, well, there was a few, I'll be honest. One, I loved that how many of you were wearing your church shirts, either at VBS when we were volunteering or for the worship service. And it was commented to me by members of the other churches how cool they thought our shirts were. And they're like, we really should do something like that. And so one, like, what an incredible witness, like to show up and to say, I'm really proud of the church that I'm a part of and I'm really grateful to be here. And so, one, I just thought that was awesome. Two, how many of you from our church showed up? It certainly wasn't a competition by any means, but if it were, I think we all win, right? Like for me, I'm a little emotional today. You'll find out in a little bit. I'll share the story of why, but one of the things I'm very passionate about in ministry is that church is for all people. And in particular, that church is for our children. I have worked very hard in the last 4 years to create an atmosphere where our kids feel at home, where they want to be at church, where they are telling their parents, let's go to church. That's where I want to be. That it is not some place where they feel like they're tag-alongs, but that it is meant for them as well. I mean, that's why we do children's message. That's why we created, and have the fidget basket and activities, and why we have the playground now. I mean, there's so many ways that I've tried to work to make our church meaningful for our children. And I think it is very important as a church that when our children are going to be front and center, like in a VBS worship, when they really are the main focus of the worship, where the worship is really tailored to them, that we show up and that we support them and that we are visible to them and that it carries the message that you matter to the church. I I was really proud of our church and the way that we showed up for our kids because that tells everybody that they matter. And that church isn't just for me, it's for them too. And when a church service isn't geared for me specifically, that's okay because if it's for someone in my community and it's going to be meaningful to them, I'm going to be there because I'm going to show up, show support. And I think it really takes seriously when Jesus says, "Let the little children come to me, for to them belongs the kingdom of God." We believe that as a church. And so thank you. That meant the world to me. Yeah. Okay. So VBS, it was awesome. God's love is everywhere. And also I want to give a special shout out to Sarah. Um, the kids sang, and I'm gonna see if I can get her to have them sing again in worship this song because they did it so incredibly well, and it was so fitting and so perfect. But she had them sing a song that I think came out in the 70s, and it was by Petula Clark. Is that right? God's love is deeper than the deepest ocean, wider than the sky. She changed the words a little bit to make it about God, but it was so perfect for our theme of God's love is everywhere. And the kids sang it so incredibly well. That for me in worship, I think that was my favorite moment was watching them sing that song and to just have embraced it so fully and kind of also triggering the nostalgia for the adults that were there as well. Um, so that's one of the reasons this week that I was reminded of why I do what I do. And then the other, and I'm going to do my best to get through this, but it's still sort of fresh. There are times as a pastor that you get invited into the most holy and sacred and beautiful moments of a person's life. And that's never been lost on me. I think about when I get invited into um, a couple when they're planning to get married and they have to come with me to do premarital counseling and we talk about their relationship in ways that I don't think anyone else talks about their relationship with them. And I ask them really pointed questions and it's not so much because I'm nosy, but I'm just wanting to make sure that they are starting on a solid foundation and they invite me into that beautiful moment of when they are sharing their life together. And as the clergy person, I get the best view in the house. Like I'm right there. And that's beautiful. And I think about when I get invited into funerals and sitting with a grieving family and sharing their life and getting to and giving given that opportunity, right, to speak about that person and to offer the family closure and hope, right? I get invited into hospital rooms. I get invited into just places that most people don't. And it's the hardest part of the job, and it's the best part of the job. And it's the part that I feel inadequate, but I know it's not about me. When I'm in those spaces, when I'm in those times, I'm reminded that it's not about me. It's about what I represent for them. And that when I walk into a room, it's not me that they're seeing, but it's the reminder that God is with them. And that that's what I'm there to do is to point to God and to the reality that God's Spirit is at work and that there is hope in Jesus Christ and that all shall be well in whatever happens. I had an experience this week that is going to stay with me for the rest of my life. A young couple who's been attending our church found out early in their pregnancy that there were complications. And so they invited me in, and we would sit and talk after worship for many weeks. And it was scary and it was hard, and there were no answers. And my heart went out to them. Last week, they consented to have the church pray for them. And this past week, she was induced. And they had asked that I come and be with them, partially because I think they wanted the support, but partially because they didn't know what would happen. And they wanted their child to be baptized. And that's me. And so Tuesday, I went to Sioux Falls and I spent the day with them as we waited for labor to come. Tuesday night, labor came very quickly, and she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. He was so beautiful. But there were a lot of complications. And it became clear that it wasn't looking good. And so, in the middle of the night, in a small room with baby boy and his parents and his grandparents, and a doctor and some nurses, I baptized him. I reminded the family that I claimed him as God's beloved child, because he is. It wasn't long after that he returned home to God. And I was there to offer prayers of offering him back into God's arms. As I think about it, and I'm still processing, there are a few thoughts that come to my mind when I think about that experience. The first is the incredible faith of that family and that young couple, that they turned not only to each other for strength, but to God and to the church, a church that they hardly knew. And they allowed me to become part of that time and to be a witness to their beautiful child's life. And I think of what an incredible privilege it was that I'm one of the few people that got to not only see him, but hold him and touch him and tell him that God loved him. That child only knew love. He only knew love. I saw in that time, I think what it meant to be the church. All the people that surrounded that couple and that family. And we were all there for them. And just each in our own way providing love and support and witness to this incredible life. And that's what real community is, and that's what family is, and that's what the church should be and always be. And I'm so grateful that that they invited me in. I'm so grateful that they found strength and hope and comfort in my presence. And again, not because it's me, but because of what I represented for them. That will be an honor and a joy and a privilege I will never forget. And I want you to know that I'm so grateful anytime someone invites me into their life, into what's going on. For me, that's the greatest privilege of this job is that honor. Um, and I don't take it lightly, and it's a big deal, but it is also my hope that it's helpful. It's helpful to you. It's helpful to have someone who is there to love and support you, to give you hope and to pray with you and to sit sit with you in whatever you're dealing with. This is an open invitation that if you have something going on in your life that you don't know who to talk to about, that maybe you have a difficult thing that you are feeling very alone in, please know that you don't have to be alone. The very real part of my job and the job part of the job that means the most to me is getting to be with you. I love what I do. And again, it's the part that I feel the most humility about because so often I think, what am I doing here? You know, why would I be the one to be allowed into that space? But again, it's not about me, it's about God. And I am there to point to God. So I want to thank Derek and Shelby for the incredible experience that you allowed me to have this week and these many months leading up to it. And I encourage all of you to continue to pray for them and their family as they adjust, as they process all that has happened, that we can support them and love them and surround them as their church. And let's open our eyes to all of us and the needs that we have and the ways that we can support each other and be supported by each other. You don't have to walk this life alone. And you don't have to wait until it's something as big and significant as this event was. Any time that you have something that and you have no one to share it with, please know that you can share it with me. I will weep with you. I will rejoice with you. I will cheer with you. I will be frustrated with you. I will be with you if you want me. And it's not about me, it's about God. I will do my best to help you remember that you are not alone. That you have a family and a community that care about you and that love you because God cares about you and God loves you. My favorite image of the church, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is the image of the friends carrying their paralytic friend to Jesus. Sometimes we're on the mat. And when you're on the mat, allow those friends to come and carry you. You do not have to do it alone. And when someone else is on the mat, let's be eager to take up the corners and carry them to Jesus. So thank you for the privilege of letting me be your pastor and walk with you. And hopefully that clears up a little bit of what does Pastor Katie do in a week and why is she so hard to get a hold of? Because when I'm with people, I'm with them. I don't answer my phone when I'm in pastoral care. I don't allow myself to be distracted in those ways. If I'm with you, I am with you. Speaking of Pastor Katie being hard to get a hold of, this coming week, I will be out of the state. I'm going to Georgia, not for vacation. I've been hearing people say, when do you leave on vacation? It's not vacation. I will admit it might feel like vacation because I will not be bringing my children. And therefore, when you only have you to care for as a mother, that feels like a vacation. But I will be going for training for my role as the chair of the Board of Ordained Ministry, which is my conference commitment. So, another part of my job. And I will be there this week. And then I will turn around from that trip and head to Pier for my required ethics and boundary training. All clergy in the United Methodist Church are required every 4 years to complete ethics and boundary training. And that covers a whole host of topics. Usually, the most significant topics are around sexual ethics, around financial ethics and boundaries. But anyway, again, as I just described, pastors often get invited into some really um, personal and intimate uh, spaces in people's lives. We get invited in where really hardly anyone else does. And so it's really important for pastors to have good boundaries and ethics to make sure that they're not doing damage, they're not taking advantage of any situation. And so it's really important. Actually, if pastors do not complete the ethics and boundaries training, they are not eligible for appointment the following year. So, and considering it's the Board of Ordained Ministry that makes that happen, and I'm the chair of that, I kind of have to be there. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So the next 2 Sundays, Reverend Carl Watkins, who's a retired United Methodist clergy person here in our church, he's out of the Iowa conference, is going to be sharing the message and leading us in worship. And I'm very grateful to Carl for being so willing to step in while I'm gone. If you also have pastoral needs, please call the church and we will make sure that that gets covered. The church office is still open. It's just I will be out for those reasons. Um, Please also, that also means that I am out for the first night of 605 open house. That is the 21st at 5:30 with youth group meeting at 7. Confirmation will also be meeting at 5:30 as well. Diane will be here. Diane Kish is my confirmation assistant. And really, it's just more of a time to pick up your items, to ask questions. First year confirmation students, your big thing for this year will be the memory work. So you can ask questions about how that works, how to accomplish that. Also asking questions about mentors. Every confirmation student needs a mentor that is a member of the church and preferably not a member of their family. Again, just to try to encourage building connections in the church community outside of our own families. Um, Second year confirmation students, your focus is going to be on the confirmation project this year. And so come ask questions about that and any other requirements that you will have before confirmation this spring. We always do confirmation Sunday, the first Sunday in May, so you can get that on your calendar. You should have also received in the mail a confirmation schedule along with expectations, and sermon note sheets. One change this year, if you are a second year confirmation student, that maybe if you kind of were skimming the things thinking I already knew it, we did make one change in that we are requiring all students to turn in a minimum of 10 sermon notes each year. That way, um, part of our expectation is that you are part of the church, that you are part of the community. And so we want you in worship because that's where our community gathers weekly. And so while you're in worship, take some notes. I will say that it's a very nerve-wracking thing as the preacher to have people taking notes on your sermon and to read what they got out of it and whether or not I was clear in what I was trying to say. And so please know that I'm assigning that with my own trepidation, because it's always interesting reading the sermon notes and going, did I say that? Did it come across like that, or what they got out of it? So, um, and then yes, I'm trying to think. Yes, so I talked about 605 youth group at 7. Again, that's still with Tiffany. 605 under the direction of Sarah Clavan, and confirmation the 21st will be with Diane. I will be back on the 28th to lead in our first time together all together. So it's happening. It is starting. Also, if you missed the backpack blessing, we still have, or at least we can get tags available to you. So please let me know. I'll double check that we can get some here if we don't have any, because we did that as part of our VBS worship this past Sunday. Yeah, this was kind of a heavy one. So, but that's the way some weeks are. And again, please hear me when I say, like, I cherish those things. And I really do. And I'm so grateful to, again, have been a part of all of your special moments. And please don't hesitate to invite me in. Please never think that you're bothering me or that I have better things to do. I don't. I am here to serve you. My call is to serve the people of First United Methodist in Yankton. And so it truly is a privilege when you invite me in. So with that, there will not be a podcast this coming week because I will be out of town. So you'll get another one again in 2 weeks. Until then, God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Going On, a video and audio podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays at 10 a.m., either in person or via our live stream, which can be found at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org, or by searching First UMC Yankton on YouTube.